Coming to you from Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, this is the Quinn Spinn. Hey now, and welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of the Quinn Spinn. I am your host, the Quinn. I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Stitcher, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective. You just heard Revel 9's All I've Become. That has been our opening theme song here at the Quinn Spinn since the great year of 2014, and it will be until the very end of days. And I'm excited for this. This is a special episode of the Quinn Spinn. I have Nate Bain joining me, who is the Director of Social Media and Influencer Marketing for the Tennessee Titans here in Nashville. Maybe you've heard of them. NFL franchise, doing pretty well these days. So, Nate, first of all, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely, man. Very excited to be here. Appreciate you giving me the call up, man, the invite. It's nice.
Absolutely. So the first question I want to ask before I get into the three standard questions is, how big is Derrick Henry in person?
Bigger than you think, man. It's I've obviously desensitized to it slightly, not all the ways, but it's fun to see fans, whether it's on game day or practice, come through and you kind of forget, even our linemen, et cetera, how big some of the NFL players are. So you get a good refresher about how cool it is to be around some of those guys. They're definitely freaks in the best way possible.
I played football in a previous life, and I just cannot imagine eating a stiff arm from that guy.
Exactly. There recently a video went semi-viral on social media. It's like the point of view. Camera was inside of a face mask and had a guy running at you, and it's like, this is what it feels like.
And you're the last one. I saw that. Yeah.
When Derrick Henry comes at you. So exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I get sheer terror. Just like my heart rate increased watching that video. I remember that. It was just the other day. Yeah. So, Nate, three standard questions I ask every new guest of the show, and you can feel free to answer these however you'd like. They are, who are you, what are your passions, and why on earth would you want to come on the Quinn Spinn?
Incredible. We'll go in reverse order. Great question, man. No, I think we know what you do. Listeners here are, and it's been something that's come through in our circles, being the Titans, and some of those things that you're doing for the community, I think, are things that we want to emulate or are trying to do. And again, the more times we can bridge those gaps with music or entertainment, and just the city and the community itself, particularly like, I don't know, the little guys and gals, the people that still haven't got their name on the billboards yet. I think the Titans are last year, but definitely through the pandemic, said we want to do something a little different and try to boost up and give a platform to some of these folks. I feel like you're doing the same. Mm-hmm. Who am I? I don't know. I'm a country kid that didn't want to be in the country, so did a little city life and have lived in 7 cities in 10 years, and or at least that was the stat line. I guess I've been here in Nashville for 5, but from Middle Tennessee. We can probably talk about it later, but went to school at Oregon, did a stint in Cleveland, Ohio, St. Louis, lived in LA for a few years. So definitely tried to be as cultured as possible, and through the whole thing, loved sports. Knew sports is how I wanted to make my living, but de-stress, I guess, with music and entertainment. So that's maybe a little bit of who I am, where I came from, and why the hell I'm here, man.
So of all the cities you've lived in, aside from Nashville, what's your favorite so far?
Maybe counter to maybe what locals think, but I loved Los Angeles. I think Nashville, in all the positive ways, I guess negative too, is kind of a mini LA, at least for my job, some of the things that I do. It's great. So yeah, I really enjoyed my time in Los Angeles, and just I loved the weather. I loved kind of the opportunity there, but had to come back home to Nashville because this is where I always wanted to be.
Yeah, beautiful city, and we are growing rapidly as we're all seeing the condos going up, and there's no end to that in sight.
Oregon's great too, though. If you ever been to Oregon, I went to school. I'm a duck. Went to the University of Oregon. Definitely, it's a completely different world up in the Pacific Northwest, and so if you haven't checked that out, make that on your bucket list to go to Seattle or Portland.
Actually, those are 2 states, Oregon and Washington, I've been to 44 states. Those are 2 of the 6 I haven't been to yet.
Do it, man. It's worth the trip. It's a hike up there, but also when you get there, it's pretty fun. Yeah. It's a big air freshener up there.
So let's go from the beginning and your formative career experiences, the winding road that led you back to Nashville, that led you to your current role with the Titans, and just discuss some of your formative career experiences and what led you here.
No doubt. Yeah, let's try to we'll frame it within maybe my current job. Yeah, so I grew up in a small town about an hour south of here, Pulaski, Tennessee, Giles County. Father was a 30-year athletic director at a school called Martin Methodist College. And so throughout, it was pretty cool for me to grow up in a small town, but to go to the gym and meet guys from Australia and Brazil and Canada and even just throughout different cities in America. And so I really got this world view in a small town in Pulaski. And so that kind of drove me to want to do something different, but only thing I've ever known is sports and maybe a little entertainment. So opportunity to go to University of Oregon popped up. That's where if you're a sports fan, Phil Knight, who founded Nike, went to school there, ran track. It's part of like the mythos of University of Oregon. So that kind of drew me out there. While I was there, it helped pay for school. Was a basketball manager. So basically, like, you do the laundry, do the water bottles, the timeouts, all that kind of good stuff. But that was a great experience. Taught me a lot of good work ethic. Allowed me to go to school there and do it for almost for free. And then that kind of really jump started right around there. MySpace was hot. Like, I don't know, without telling your listeners how old you are.
Oh, I talk about I'm 35.
35. Yeah. Okay, we're close to the same age.
Yeah.
So high school, college, it was MySpace and it was Facebook.
Yep.
And so throughout my college years, undergrad, Instagram came on the scene, Twitter came on the scene. And so I just kind of inherently, that's how I communicated with my friends back home. And so while I was there, I started, what if we had like a social account to do, like what our uniforms are? It wasn't anywhere what social media is today, but the SID, the director of operations, everyone kind of was like, this could be a good idea. Mm-hmm. So I kind of was like, this is kind of fun. Took an internship in Cleveland, Ohio in sports marketing because I had no idea what I wanted to do when I got out of college. But it landed this awesome 10-month opportunity. Did a bunch of kind of grunt work, but again, social, no one really knew what to do with it. They gave it to me. I crafted what is now probably a social strategy, but again, just was inherently doing that kind of stuff. Got into grad school at University of Tennessee because, again, another year later, still had no idea what I wanted to do as a career. But when you connect the dots going backwards, you go, this is kind of the formation, to your point, of a career. When I went to the University of Tennessee, I got my master's in sports business. Again, worked for the men's basketball team doing like PR, social media kind of stuff. By then, coaches wanted social media for recruiting, and if you're in the sports world, that's a huge part of college sports. And so then, once I graduated the University of Tennessee, had a great Sweet 16 run with the men's basketball program, did a lot of fun sports things, traveled. I've been to every Pac-12 school, every SEC school, did a lot of traveling. And at the end of that, I came out to the other end and go, I have, 4 or 5 years of social media experience, unofficially, and then the NFL had started to hire some people in these kind of roles. The St. Louis Rams had an opportunity. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I'd also applied, probably just like some of your like musicians trying to break through. I think I interviewed 2 or 3 times at ESPN, SEC Network, multiple colleges, and was always runner-up, could never really break through, and finally get this opportunity with the Rams, which I was like, they beat the Titans in the Super Bowl. Not my favorite team, but it was an opportunity.
From the door.
Exactly. Took it. Worked my way up, moved with the team from St. Louis to Los Angeles, and then kind of just continued to move up. Titans have an opening, and I was like, this is a great opportunity to pop over and come back home, and then continue to progress in my career. Again, that was a short story of a long story, but also still went kind of long. But that's kind of how he bopped over, and then as you move up, you just kind of, at least with this, I have my social strategy completely down, and then TikTok comes on the scene. Then Instagram develops Reels and Instagram stories. So as much as I want to say I'm, you're formative and you've created this great career and are set, at least in my world, it changes
ever evolving
5 minutes, and we may even talk about it later. But some of these musicians I've had the pleasure of hanging out with and becoming friends with here in this town. The whole thing now is, I'm a musician, but now my people are telling me I have to create a TikTok and I have to go viral, and like I don't even know what to do. I'm trying to play music, but also now I'm a content creator.
Yeah.
And so it's been fun to have those conversations with those people.
Yeah, and for musicians, it used to be just as simple as writing songs, releasing songs, but now there's this whole ecosystem. You have to think like an entrepreneur, and it is ever evolving, to your point. It's fun to trace it all the way back to the time around when we were in college and social media was just becoming a thing. And it was this novel idea to like, maybe we create a Facebook group for this thing that we're doing, right? And now it's completely taken over the creative landscape, the entertainment landscape, and there's so much new to learn all the time, right? So how do you stay ahead of that curve when there are more platforms than ever, there are more algorithmic nuances and adjustments you have to make. So how do you stay ahead of that curve?
From an optimistic standpoint, I think you just got to be open and always willing to know that you don't know everything and be willing to move and shake with that. You obviously can get pretty pessimistic in the sense of like, the amount of time you may have to dedicate to that. Definitely rely on maybe friends and other content creators. But yeah, I think really just staying open to that kind of stuff. And then, I mean, there's, I guess, yeah, we can talk about it now. Like, I think it's Ben Rector has I don't want to undersell this, but like a big red mascot it's on his new album. And he's going to do like a whole mascot tour essentially, and he's going to come to our stadium and work with our mascot and a couple others, and I mean, and just create content around all of that whole premise with his music kind of driving it. Again, something kind of odd and I wouldn't have thought of, but it may work. So I think just being open to a lot of different ideas and collaborations and using all musicians are pretty creative, but tapping into that in a different kind of way. Same thing with what I do.
Yeah, collaborating outside of your bubble.
Yeah, there you go.
Is so important too. And we have a lot here about community engagement that we're going to touch on, and how although the Titans are an NFL franchise, there's so much outside of the NFL and outside of sports in Nashville and the surrounding area to engage with. So how do you make that outreach to the community, and how do you bring other people in who might not be the football audience to engage from the community?
Oh, it's a great question. We're still trying to figure it out. I don't know if there's a perfect formula, but I think we're trying to maybe approach it in a grassroots way, and what's the return on it, and we have to always produce good results. But there's an example, again, we'll keep it in music. Our head of video, Nick Conklin, who's been very passionate about the hip-hop community, and I think he was saying there's a Complex magazine article when he first moved here that he read just about how this town is traditionally thought of, at least by the outsiders, as a country town, but there's this great hip-hop scene.
Absolutely.
It's parts of East Nashville, et cetera, and he's like, I want to tap into that. And so he's just, again, put boots on the ground and found relationships with one producer that knows this person, and long story short has made deals with some of these hip-hop artists and use their tracks to help soundtrack some of our like recap videos or hype videos going into games, included some of their music videos interspliced in with some of our player highlights, and then showed their album artwork and where to listen. And so we're basically feel like we're kind of giving a platform to some of these local hip hop guys who are very well known locally, but maybe even hopefully use our shield being the NFL logo and our fireball, I guess if you will, of our logo to hopefully give them a little bit bigger boost. And now we're trying to stretch that into Memphis. We even got some big ones like Moneybag Yo did a Madden music video at our stadium, but even there's some like local Chattanooga rappers that I think Nick recently did something for one of our playoff games, and I think the word got back on the street was he woke up and had 3 times the listeners that he normally had on Spotify, which I was like, I didn't even think that we could push the needle that much, but I think he just had fans excited about the Titan football and said, well, that's a pretty good song. Where can I listen to that? And we gave that info. So yeah, I think that's some of what we're trying to do there, and try to give a spotlight to others, and then take that, extrapolate it out. It starts to get whole because we had again, semi-long story, we had a meeting with an agency that we're working with, and one of their work remote folks was living in Chattanooga and said he had been out and had heard that the Titans were working with some of his favorite rappers locally, and then it got back to us. And it's like, we can't really broadcast out in a press release, but again, that word of mouth slowly gets around, and we want to do that not only with music, but in the community. Waverly gets hit by the flood, and we're putting boots on the ground. Again, it may take 5-10 years, maybe long after I'm gone, but hopefully that slowly starts to spread itself around. We're doing youth football camps where the kids that are 8 years old are starting to go, oh, well, this is pretty cool. I'm gonna get this shirt and go home with it. So all of those things hopefully play together and build a much deeper ecosystem than just some of the things that maybe a traditional sports team would do.
Right.
And it's cool at the end of the day. You want to be like the New Yorks and Bostons, Chicagos of the world, where you land in that city and you see Cubs gear and Red Sox gear. I think we've only been here 20 years, which in the grand scheme of sports is not that long.
Right.
But hopefully you eventually start seeing our product throughout the city, and if we once you win games, then it all kind of meshes together.
Oh, yeah. And certainly with the team's recent success, you've been seeing more and more Titans logos pop up. And you having this platform to elevate not only what the Titans are doing, but what is happening within this community, what makes Nashville a great place to live, a great place to create. You're leaders in that sense, and being able to use that platform to put forth everything that's great about Nashville only comes back around to help that rising tide raise all boats.
Absolutely.
And with the community work too, the youth football camps, players being active in the community, important to highlight that as well. And I think in this increasing age of transparency, also very important to present the players as human beings who believe in causes, who have personalities, right? So what are some of the ways that the Titans do that to build that rapport between the players, fans, other influencers throughout the community?
To be definitely, the transparency element I think is cool. People unrelated to these combos, people ask kind of what I want to do, and I want to be like authentic and transparent, whether it's in social media, if times are bad, whatever that may be. Keeping all if the top negative comment on our social channels is X, don't delete it. Let's address it. Let's talk about it. So I think that's cool that you brought that up. And it's definitely part of what we want to do. And it's letting our players be who they are. Try to amplify their stories, whether they're heartfelt or just. Derrick Henry's a super calm, private guy, but on the football field, he's an animal, and he prefers us to showcase his athletic feats as the way he rises. But now he's gotten more comfortable in the community, and he's got his own foundation, and he wants to help kids at the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA. And so it took a little time for him to get comfortable, but now he's coming to us. Hey, I want to do this. I want to do this. So
the players have input too, as far as what goes out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there's times where I've made plenty of mistakes, showcasing what I thought was a guy in a positive light, but he wasn't, and we learn. We kind of ebb and flow that way. And then you got guys like Taylor Lewan who have came on the scene being extremely loud and flamboyant, but have now found a way to probably just kind of what we're trying to do. But his podcast, Bustin' with the Boys, he's got his own thing called the Bus Stop now, and he's bringing in local musicians and basically giving them a music video of sorts, kind of like a tiny desk of sorts. And it's kind of cool to see. Again, he's doing that on his own without any of our help. And hopefully we slightly influenced it. But again, it's cool to see him put roots down in Nashville and say, long after I'm done playing, I want to positively contribute to the goal. So I think that's kind of maybe in Nashville's DNA going back before I was even born. But it's cool to see everybody be on the same page-ish and try to help rise everyone up. And I think it might just helps everybody else out. And we'll have hopefully some other topics we'll get into, but just whether it's Battle of the Bands that we did and some of the cool things that happened. And it's just cool to see people succeed. So I think that's what we all want here in this town.
I do want to touch on Battle of the Bands in a moment. But speaking as an outsider, as somebody who moved here, I lived in Pennsylvania before I moved here. I'm from New Jersey. I've been here going on 4 years. There is
You're local now.
Yeah. I've pretty much been here forever by current Nashville standards. But the thing I noticed was that sense of it's not like New York. I've never been to LA. I can't speak for LA, but I have plenty of experience with New York. It does have that small town feel where if you're here to do good work for the right reasons, people are willing to help you. They're willing to show you the ropes. They're willing to give you what you need to get started here. And that just is such a Nashville thing to me. And it's really exciting to see that continue to be the case, even as the city changes and grows, there's still that heartbeat, of what makes Nashville, Nashville. I do want to touch on that Battle of the Bands because our friend Aaron McClendon played on that last year, and our other friends Duke of June.
And the Hellcats, man. Yeah.
And our other friends Duke of June actually won that, which I was really happy to see because a couple weeks after that, we had them on one of our Nash Live shows at the 5 spot.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I was at that show. So you actually know that band a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. Keep going, my man. Yeah. I could talk about that group. They played last night at the basement.
It's so incredible.
They're fun, man. I like them a lot, so I could talk the whole podcast about them. But keep going.
They're incredible. They're great people. They're just a fun hang, and the musicianship is mind-blowing among that 6-piece band. But I want to talk about Battle of the Bands and how that idea came to fruition and what the public response was to that, because it was a really cool opportunity. I know we in the music community really appreciated and took notice. The Titans are doing this. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I think we certainly made a lot of mistakes, learned from them, hopefully improve them. And some of it's just we had a football game that night There was like a margarita festival. I mean, it's as this city gets bigger, there's just a million things to do. So I think our crowd was better than we thought, but still wasn't full. We did it the new 5th and Broadway rooftop location. But yeah, it basically came from genesis of battle bands is not, we didn't invent that idea, but we thought what it would be cool if we had a bunch of local up-and-coming bands. What could we give them? Basically, we wanted to have a fun, basically wanted to throw a cool event. I think that was kind of maybe our brainstorm. What's the coolest event we could throw to get in younger people? A lot of people come in for music, blah, 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 blah. We should have a lot of like undiscovered talent. What could we do to help foster that? And so we started there, and it all built from that. And then we had open submission. I think we ended up having, I don't know, like 70, 75 bands submit. We had this whole maybe overly complicated judging process, and we ended up getting in a room and had our score system, and then we yelled at each other about what band should make it. And we had Gibson come in as a partner, and then we got some other like judges of noteworthiness, and I'll talk about those in just a second. And then basically we get down to 5 bands that we thought were diverse, but also brought in some really cool aspects. And they said, let's just see what happens. And it was pretty cool once they got in. It was a great event. Erin, I think she closed it. I don't know, kicked it off. We had who else we have? Jonathan Wyndham, we had Juka June, we had a band that was from Alabama that was on, I think, American Idol. So it was a really cool group, a lot of different talent there. And then we had judges from the basis of Moon Taxi, Tommy Putnam, who's an awesome guy. Steve Schnurr, who heads up EA Sports Music. So he basically is the person who puts together Madden soundtrack, FIFA soundtrack, etc. I think we had somebody from Nashville Scene, had a couple other artists. We had a lot of good talent there, and a lot of good people that care about Nashville. And yeah, Juka June rocked the house. They're my personal favorite. Promise it was still a fairly judged competition, but I just love those guys. Yeah. I love their sound. And then it was cool to see at the end of it, great time, great event. And then like Steve Schnurr came up to us. He's like, I got to meet this band right now. And again, he's the EA Sports guy. Yeah. And he's like, they just have this unique sound. We took him down in the green room. He's obsessed. He's like, I want to put you guys in FIFA. And we're like, well, this is a nice, cool.
Amazing.
No, we'll see if that happened. But they're in negotiations now to do that. The Juka June folks said like, couple weeks later, he went to a house show of theirs. So you have this exec at EA Sports showing up in his backyard.
To a house show, yeah.
And I think the cops got called on it. So, like, it's kind of cool to see how all of that manifested itself. They ended up getting to play at Nissan Stadium, which was freezing. They crushed it despite it was, like, below freezing, and they were on top of basically a scoreboard. Yeah. But, yeah, between all of that, I think we had a lot of fun. We're going to run it back this year. Hope we learn from some of our mistakes. But, yeah, long story short, it was a really cool event, and it ended up manifesting itself in a cool way where a lot of different relationships were built. I think Aaron and some of those folks still communicate, and they've all helped each other out. So it's been really cool to see.
Yeah, I go to Aaron shows, and I'll see the Juka June guys there. Like, it's really something like that and how it brings the community together, number one, but how that has a lasting impact and lasting relationships, how it all comes together and grows from there, is inspiring. And that's exactly what I think we're all going for here, is we're trying to build community, because for any one creative or any one creative entity, it's not easy to build that platform, and you can't do it alone, right? So we all need to pull our resources, build stronger relationships, and have opportunities like that. And on behalf of the music community, again, we really appreciated that, and definitely took notice. So we're looking forward to this year too, Yeah,
I think that's a cool point too. Yeah, I guess now that I think back, it's cool to see how each other, like Tommy again from Moon Taxi, who was a fan of Moon Taxi before, and then obviously become friends with those folks. But those guys even took some of those artists under their wing and said, here's what we did when we were you guys. And, then listening to them, how helpful that is. So, again, what you're doing on the podcast is what they did after that show. It's been cool to see, and, again, it goes back into what we're talking about Nashville. So I think that's what makes this place pretty cool.
Absolutely. And let's keep that spirit alive here in Nashville as well.
Yeah.
So for an artist, a creative person, anybody trying to build a platform starting out, we've covered, how many different nuances and things to learn that there are. There are certainly do's and don'ts in terms of engaging your public in a social media sense, and building that kind of influence. What would be some advice you would give somebody just starting to build their platform who doesn't quite know where to begin?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I think, it's the cliche stuff too. You got to be like authentic to yourself. I think if it does get successful and you're not authentic to yourself, suddenly you're spinning your wheels even more trying to come up with it all. But yeah, man, that's a good question. Where do you start? Yeah, I think some of it. So it's like with TikTok for our show. TikTok was new. I'm now old, and I definitely consider myself. I'm kind of old now that once TikTok hit the scene, but it's growing rapidly in popularity. And I was like, well, I'll just slow up. We don't have to get in as far as the Titans jumping on this platform. I don't really know what to do. I want to test this and that. And some of the teams that were most successful just got on it and started throwing stuff against the wall. What's working? I was like, we have to have our players involved with it. Well, there's teams like the Eagles who just had their staff members do goofy TikToks, and they started really seeing results. Point being, I think you start testing stuff to see what your brand is, kind of have an idea of what it is, and then have fun within those parameters and be able to ad-lib a little bit. Because I tried to, again, scientifically test everything on TikTok, which is still important, but you guys got to have fun with it. You got to test some of that stuff out. And I'm seeing some of that you're seeing with some of who's had crazy success. Was it even Lil Nas X just threw his track out, and now he's like an international superstar?
Yeah, Gail's another one.
It's great, and she's kind of local, is she not?
Yeah, she's from here.
She's from
here. Yeah.
So I think who would have thought, just singing your ABCs to some degree and spinning into a song would be almost number one hit. So yeah, I think that, and she's on Jimmy Fallon. She's been headlining not headlining, but she's been at festivals.
She's on tour with international touring acts.
Exactly. So I think the point being is give it a try, and it's something that I even try to remind myself when I try to overcomplicate a simple situation is just throw out some ideas, kind of have an idea what you are, and then kind of see where it takes you, because it's been cool to, that's, again, back to the point why labels and every advice is have your music, but also create these social channels, which can be probably very stressful for some musicians. But we have a couple of examples of it really crushing for you.
Yeah, and I think I agree with everything you just said, and I think trial and error. Don't be afraid to fail.
Exactly.
Not everything is going to work. Not everything's going to hit, but just don't be afraid to try things. This podcast alone over the years has undergone so many makeovers.
Yeah, exactly.
Finally got my format
here.
down, over the past couple of years. But you have to take those swings. If you're not taking the swings, you're not going to hit. To use another sports analogy.
Definitely.
You have to step up and actually do it. You have to actually try. You just can't sit back and wait. There's something to be said for watching and learning a new platform like TikTok. But this general sense of sit back and wait till you're ready. This general sense of sit back and wait till the fear goes away. The fear never goes away.
Yep.
It never goes away. You just learn how to manage it, and you just learn how to take those shots anyway. And if people like it, people like it. If they don't, they don't, and there's nothing you can really do to control that, but you can control your response to it, which brings me to my next point.
Yes, man.
Football fans are really vocal, as we both know and have experienced, especially when the team's not winning, which the Titans have had a good run of success these past few years.
Prior to that, it was, we're talking about 10 years, rough patch there for sure. So, yeah.
So how do you keep things positive within the community when things aren't going well, especially in this transparent digital age where people could just get on a keyboard and...
Oh yeah, man, it's challenging. I think you try to pick your battles. You might even hopefully go to that garden of all of the grassroots things that we mentioned at the top of the pod. Hey, we're losing, but look at this great work we're doing here, or we're going to do this cool event. And it's kind of, regardless of your win-loss record, we're still hopefully doing fun, entertaining, cool things in the community. So you might lean on that a little bit. But it's at the end of the day, if we're winning, my job is one of the best jobs I think in the world. If we win, and when we lose, probably one of the worst. So you ride that roller coaster. Right. But yeah, I think you try to be open and transparent about it as much as you can be. But yeah, even recently we just traded away A.J. Brown, a receiver that had a lot of energy, very charismatic, a lot of fans, bought his jersey. We're all about him. He's a super young guy. And then we up and trade him, caught some fans off guard, and there's still some hurt feelings. We got to reset and get ready for our next season, but yeah, we're still trying to deal with that on social and some of the negative backlash, but yeah, man, it's just part of it, and you may also do that as a musician, but I think back to your original point of can't let that, just the fear of failure or not getting back up into it affect you. But yeah, for us, I think honestly, when we were not playing as well, we may focus a little bit less on the field product, and when we're winning, we'll do a little bit more. But yeah, it's definitely you have to there's all these different cliche sayings, but don't read the comments as much, and there's a lot of things that I definitely have some thick skin when I'm, even though it's not my name on it, but I certainly take a lot of pride in running the Titans social accounts. But yeah, there's definitely some, I can name 3 or 4 off the top hand that have been some pretty rough moments in my career where things haven't gone well for the organization, and I'm definitely the front door for a lot of that criticism.
Yeah. So how do you keep it in perspective, in those moments? I mean, obviously it's always bigger than football or bigger than the one, the on-field product or a particular incident, particular play that didn't go right. There's this whole ecosystem around the Titans and the community. How do you keep that perspective, though, when it's, when it's not too friendly out there on social?
I mean, sometimes that's what I'll just turn off my, it's probably not the greatest answer, turn off my computer and listen to some Juke June, man, and just vibe out.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that, sometimes you just know that your job is not all the defining aspect of who you are, because I definitely early on in my career would get super invested in the highs and lows.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's some of what it is, honestly, because some of the social is, I love it still. I love the good and bad parts of it. Some of it's pretty toxic, and I'm not going to change everybody's opinion of something. So, yeah, sometimes you have to just close the laptop up.
Yeah, take a little break, take a breather.
Break, man.
Yep. Get out of the room and come back with a fresh perspective. Yeah, love it. So, again, we have Nate Bain here on the Quinn Spinn. He's the director of the Tennessee Titans social media and influencer strategy. And I want to ask, what's up ahead? Season's coming up.
Yeah, man.
We're what, maybe a month out from the start of training camp?
Yeah, so okay, you're a football fan, Yeah, I mean, we're trying to cook up. So again, it's very maybe perfect that I'm on this podcast now. The idea now is we're trying to lean into a lot of some of these grassroots music, and we're going to do some bigger picture stuff, but we're trying to weave in a theme of music for the whole season, whether that's artists that are at games, some of our content. We have a media day, which essentially is just all of our players get in full uniform and go through 4 or 5 photo sets, 2 or 3 video sets on Monday. That's when we're doing that. And again, our whole kind of theme, I think, is going to be, we'll have like a studio set and maybe an amp wall set. And so everything's going to be music centered. And so we're taking those ideas and trying to start building out our plan for the season. So that's a lot of what was up and coming. So again, you'll hopefully see a little bit more music included in everything that the Titans do. And hopefully that's, obviously we're a country music town to some degree, but I think we're trying to fully go into the music city with hip-hop, rock, battle of the bands, anything we can do with that, I think you're going to hopefully start seeing. And then the other part of my job title is the influencer marketing, which is the new buzz term. And yeah, so I've been blessed. Our owner is very supportive of my part of my job. We have a new suite that we've kind of decked out, and I'm going to try to be bringing in a lot of artists, some of the influencers that, hey, look, these cool people that have a lot of followers are here, but also hopefully help foster some, like you said, when Aaron and Juke June get together and they help each other out, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So some of my job will be not only to create this cool content and integrate it into Music City, but also create this space at a football game where some talented people can get together, help boost the Titans brand, but also watch a football game and hopefully some cool collaborations come out of it. So that's what we're kind of looking forward to this season.
I love it. And I just want to say too, like, hearing this come from somebody who works for an NFL franchise about the importance of getting granular with the community, and here in Nashville, the music community warms my heart.
That's good, man. Yeah. We still got to move and shake with some of the higher follower count that still obviously moves the needle, but I think we've found, I don't know, maybe it's just personal preference, but we've had more, we had more pride in some of the local connections like yourself and Juke June, Aaron, whoever it may be, we keep referencing on the podcast. That success going up seems to be pretty fun for us. And I think it's been cool to see the return where some of these people we've worked with, when I pop on the Instagram store and it's not an agreed deal behind the scenes with me, and they just have a Titans hat on or a shirt, or they're wearing X, Y, or Z at one of their shows. I think that's pretty cool. So that makes me feel good at the end of the day.
Wonderful. Well, how can we support the Titans going forward?
For me, man, just follow all the social accounts, comment on things, even if it's a bad loss. I guess the maybe negative side of my job is I've built some of these celebrities into fans. They also are now riding the roller coaster, and when we lose that playoff game, they're upset, and they definitely let you know about it on social. Oh. But again, I'll take it. So yeah, man, I think do that. show up at the Battle of the Bands. We'll hopefully start kicking that promotion off here this summer. And just help us, help you guys, and we're always open for ideas and feedback. But follow us, comment on things, and show up at some of our events. Let's have some fun.
Let's do it. Nate Bain from the Tennessee Titans, Director of Social Media and Influencer Marketing Strategy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you, man. Let's do it again.
And this has been the Quinn Spin. 2 N's in Quinn, 2 N's in Spin. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, and more. We're putting these videos out now on YouTube. I almost forgot that. That's the Underground Music Collective YouTube channel, by the way. Underground Music Collective is our central hub for all things independent music, community, and more. Learn more at undergroundmusiccollective.com and follow all the socials as well. NashLive.live has your local independent music hookup. We have shows coming up here all throughout Nashville. We actually have one this Sunday as of air date at the East Room. That's going to be a lot of fun. So check us out, NashLive.live. Learn more. Revel 9's All I've Become going to take us out just like it brought us in. And I'll see you next time. Hey now.
Now